Okay, I'm going to go ahead and tell more about the mental institution experience. And I'm going to start by saying, and the reason why is because Ren has encouraged me again. Because I'm like, I don't want to talk about things usually after something feels traumatic, and I'm like, I don't want to stir the pot and end up in that situation again because I did not like being in the mental institution at all. And even though I can see that there are some things that need to be improved upon in our world, and there's also things that I can observe that I've already improved upon within myself. And there were um, some positive things also that I did not expect. And so that's a different kind of expectation when you expect that something um, is not trustworthy because of a past experience that you've had. And then you get into that situation in another, version of yourself as you are today, and you find that actually there is trust to be had in that circumstance, and a lot of that has to do probably with changes within your own behavior and your self governed abilities. And that's where we shift the, what did I say? There is a difference between blame and responsibility, but when you shift that responsibility back upon yourself as to trying to be considerate, and that's the main thing I like to use as my point of view reference. If I was being a considerate person, how would I feel on the other side of this equation? Would I want to be the person that is being a recipient of this treatment that is going on? I also re-listened to the Dr. Myers um, song, which I don't like. Okay, whenever I hear something that is difficult to swallow, because it could be something that actually is true or something that is disturbing to me, and then I can pick that apart also at the same time and turn it into something which it is not, to make myself feel better about a situation or to create something loving in a romantic kind of way out of the circumstance. It puts me at odds with myself, and then I'm just trying to get away from it because I don't like to get twisty like that. But I understand that, like, I almost kind of do think it sort of makes sense, but I also think it does not make sense because a lot of the reason why I'm able to feel this bonding type of experiences with Ren is because of getting through some, and I don't really want to say getting through, but coming up out of circumstances that we no longer have to be a part of because we've developed ourselves into more loving or more considerate human beings. That is a romantic sort of experience. And so it even if you don't want to have to be experiencing this love for a person through something that's not a very good thing to have to be in, it does happen, and that's just something to acknowledge. You're not you're okay, so you just need to make sure you're not twisting it so much where you're ignoring that there what is going on with the other people who are involved as to what is good, a benefit for them. You don't want to do that for your own love life. You need to make sure that you care about people. That's very important. Okay, I'll give you an example of that. Um, I was given this roommate when I was there, and she was, a little bit, or not a little bit, but she was overweight, and she had a big knot on her head, and she had a some, like, cuts on her legs and her arms from cutting herself. And when I heard this noise in the room. She was okay. Before I had seen her in the room, I played that neurodivergent song in the gym, and I didn't even connect those two things as to wanting to play that song and then that having to do with being messed up in the head in some of those lyrics. Now, the lyrics aren't at the top of my head right now, but I felt kind of convicted after I did that and then noticed that situation. Okay, and then after that, she was in the room with that. I guess she came in there with that knot already on her head, but she was banging her head on the wall, and there was blood on the wall because she kept doing it. And I was talking to her, and I told the nurses, but I was also talking to her. And when I tried to talk to her, she told me that she was a musician and graduated from college with a degree in learning how to play the French horn. And she also made a comment that she understood what I was saying about the negative and the positive, and which wolf you feed, which is inside of yourself. And then she made a comment about the Renaissance, which obviously seems like it's something that's connected to myself. But that's something that also bothers me, because if somebody's putting their self in a bad circumstance and they're wanting to put me in a good circumstance when they're acting like that, it makes me confused. And that's why I said that it's weird. That was what I said after she said that. This life is weird, because why are you thinking about my circumstances when you're not thinking about what you're doing right now? And like, I could have like connected all these things about like that Mr. Yellow and Blue poem and like a wall and blood and head, and get really distorted with that, with what I was trying to imagine she was doing. But to me, to do things like that in that kind of artistic way and make one thing about something else which is bad, that's on the line of evil. Okay, you don't do things like that to yourself in representation of something else. And so because she was doing that, she had to get an attendant to sit with her in the room, which I wasn't going to sleep in there because of I ended up sleeping on the couch. But there was an attendant that had to be in the room and watch her, the nurse, and watch her to make sure that she would not do that to herself anymore. And then she also had to get a nurse to go with her inside of the bathroom. And she was losing her freedoms the more that she was trying to hurt herself. And I couldn't understand it, because she talked like she could completely understand what she was doing. And then another comment that she made to me was, can't she just be allowed to hurt herself if that's what she wants to do? And I was like, is it because that you can't deal with your emotions? That's what I said. And she said it felt better to experience doing those things to herself than her emotions. And I didn't understand it. And I was like, is that because you don't like thinking about your future, or what? And I don't like, I guess that she agreed with that. But I said, you know what, life is so short anyways, that like, I mean, there's nothing to fear about the future. And as you take better care of yourself, you're given more responsibilities, which makes your life more fulfilling. No matter if you get what you think that you want, there's no sense in being afraid of emotions. It's something that I don't think that I have ever been able to understand. To create this fear out of emotions and wanting to feel like there's some terrible thing, I don't compute with that. I do not compute with that. I mean, I really don't. And so that was one of my observations in there. And another thing, I mean, and I don't know for sure because some of it seemed connected with me and message and like kind of hidden messages that I was supposed to actually know about that they're not going to tell me about, but also like um you know, it was not a good situation. If we're thinking about politics or something like that, which I don't really understand politics as to the right and the left and all of that, but if we're thinking about that, it was not a good it was not a good treatment of the staff to themselves either, to put them in a situation where their life is about trailing behind someone to make sure they don't hurt themselves and follow them into a bathroom. I mean, I wouldn't want that for myself either. I wouldn't want to be on either side of that, because are you really being good to yourself if you are in a situation where you're having to cater to somebody like that who's uh you know, it's just it doesn't make sense to me. It does not make sense to me. And so I got frustrated and I vented while I was there, but um there's just things that like you do have to get smarter about this kind of stuff. You do. I wouldn't put myself in a job where I had to do that. I also wouldn't want to be you know, creating this dynamic, and I don't know if she was doing that on purpose, where maybe she didn't want to be alone and to have somebody that would sit with her. I don't know exactly what was going on through her mind because I'm not her. But like it's it is not it's not bad to be it doesn't feel that bad to be emotional, and it doesn't feel that bad to be alone. Neither of those two things. And that's just like one of those things about overcoming anxiety, I guess. Like you think you might hype something up in your mind to be so terrible that is not really that terrible. And you realize when you get a little bit of freedom, which freedom means that you're not so dependent on other people. To me, I mean that's a big part of freedom. Because when you feel like that, and like your cage is shrinking because the level of care is not adequate for whatever's going on, that's shrinking. That's shrinking your space, and to be able to grow that space where you can move and feel good about your life, it's such a better thing to be able to do that. But so with this thing that Ren brought up about let me read, because I took a screenshot of that and I'm going to use this video kind of on what I wrote. Okay, so he's talking to a girl and he says please drop tribalist thinking. If you take time to have to understand why, then you have more productive conversations and meet people at better points in turn, which creates better societies. Imagine someone said to you, I can't fathom why you would think the way you do. Do you want to would you feel like talking to them, or would you close yourself off? Okay, so I connected that piece to, and I usually do this to Ren feeling getting emotional about some of the things that I have had to experience, and then instead of trying to, and I recognize this in the mental institution with some of the things that happened with what the men, with some, what seemed like the men were saying that was an issue. Instead of Ren trying to get protective of me because of things that he feels are not good, he's encouraging me to do that from my own soapbox, basically. So a soapbox, I said, was like getting on your podium to cleanse the air, basically. That's why I call it a soapbox. You could call it your pedestal, being preachy or whatever, but I think it's a cleansing thing to be able to digest and produce communication. Okay, so why? Do you want to know? Like, I'm acting as if I have an audience because, like, I guess it's important information. So when I posted the thing about wisdom teeth and insurance and all those things before, it's in one of my posts. Somebody put on Pinterest or in YouTube or something like that about me getting in trouble or me having to go to court or being sued or something like that for the things that I was talking about, and I was like, whatever, okay, that's dumb, and then ended up having to go back to the mental institution because I had a conversation when I got pulled over about insurance, and then I was trying to have a conversation about insurance not being a good thing. They, I don't know how many fucking police officers I'm on their video camera giving these speeches with nervous talk about all the productive things that I do. But anyways, the situation was for my benefit, I believe, to get this out here. So I said what I said about insurance. By the time I got into the court thing, and I had an attorney that I talked with before, and then I had the other attorney that was in the courtroom. And now this was on a video camera. I did not go to a courtroom, but it was all the same anyways, I guess, with the way a proceeding goes. And then there was the doctor that gave her speech. I gave my speech, and then there was a judge. And so that was the conversation about, like, yes, I had been in the mental institution before, and it was my belief that that had more to do with that I had faulty, immature thinking because of drugs and alcohol and other things that I had been dabbling around with, than it had to do with any kind of diagnosis, basically. And so I believe that I had said that I had not been on any medications for 9 years, and that I had been sober for more than 7 years and living in my own house with no problems of taking care of myself or anything like that. And then I started listing out that I do aquaponics and home construction. The attorney called it remodeling, and then I saw Ren had posted himself on the catwalk after I got out, and I was like, see, that's like, he's adding romance into these sort of tribulations or overcoming of things, and it still happens on a daily basis, and it's like lights me up a little bit. But anyway, so I explained myself, and the doctor said at first, because she discussed what was in her report first, which was mostly, her report was just secondhand reporting about things that she had heard, is what it seemed like to me. And she said that it was in her recommendation that I needed to be put on some kind of pill for my mood. That was it, mood disorder. And then after I gave my talk, and then I felt supported. I actually felt supported by both attorneys, which would be, we're thinking political, left and right, that like they understood my reasoning and everything. They told the doctor, they questioned the doctor about a belief system rather than a diagnosis. And they said, you cannot medicate people because you don't like their belief system. And I was like, thank you. Finally, like, there is some agreement here, because I was scared that entire time talking about, please do not put me on medication. I lost my ovary because of medication before. Please do not try and put me on medication. And I said that I don't know how many times, and I was nervous, but I kept participating in the classes and all this stuff, and I was much more talkative because that I think that being nervous makes me louder, or for whatever reason. I don't have, like, I'm gonna, like, if somebody's just questioning me, like, how do you feel, and something is on my mind or is coming up that I'm not going to want to prophecy over until what I think might happen, because I'm just going to wait and see how things pan out. That's the way that I deal with anxiety. It makes my anxiety go up if I try to push that off on somebody else to talk about something before it actually happens. It's like, let me keep that to myself, and I can talk about it after I've digested it or returned back to my, normal for myself, being myself, where I feel safe. When I say normal, that means that I feel safe. Okay? So, I won that case. But that didn't make me, like, when I talk about a Pyrrhic victory, it didn't make me feel good about having been in that situation, although I could see that I learned a lot of things and that there needs to be changes made overall in the way that these different these different institutions or whatever have been created. Now, I understand that there is actually punishment and correction based upon ignorance or naivety or stupidity, self-harm, harm to others, all those things. But I still think that education could go a long way if you can actually get people to listen to you. A lot of people won't listen to you whenever they're into whatever it is that they're doing, and that and then they might listen to you and just not do or take into account what you're saying is a good thing to do. And that's a hard thing to have to experience, because you want to be helpful, but how can you be helpful if a person doesn't want to help theirself? It doesn't see it like you see it, or whatever. There was this other circumstance where there was one lady who had gotten special privileges, and she had like these special pillows, and was able to keep her room unlocked all day and get like extras. I would say she was able to get extras and be able to do more of what she wanted to do in there. And then other people would, I noticed that some of the other women would be like, if she gets to do that, then I want to get my door unlocked. And I did not take that stance at that moment, because when you are in a circumstance demanding that you get the same treatment as other people, you might not want the treatment that other people are getting, because that's not your goal. It is not your goal to feel good about yourself getting special treatment in a mental institution. Your goal is to get the fuck out of there and do what you got to do. So if you got to be locked out of your room so that you'll attend class, then you just do it. Although it wouldn't even be necessary to lock you out of your room if you, like, I guess that, like, you were really wanting to, you know, participate and everything like that. But that is the circumstance. Now, you have choices all of the time. I refuse to have extra snacks that were not healthy for me. I ate, moderate amounts of food. I did not overindulge in anything. I participated in the things that I thought were good to participate in. I communicated well, and I was let out, and that kind of closed up a a heartache, from something from before. Now, I would not go back and like try and get a job there or anything like that. For as what I described, that would not be fair to myself to to reduce my own quality of life by having done that. But so when I talk about Ren's music with the Asylum, it is not that I like every song. I do not like every song. Some of the things are difficult for me to listen to much, but music in a situation like that, if the music is telling you the truth, if you're in that way of thinking at that moment of time, that needs to get through to your head, okay? And that's why I think his music is important and good, okay? He might not be doing those things, but if he knows that people will close their ears off to you because they don't like what you're saying and they don't want to change, then you look for ways to get through to their ears, and good sounding music that has truth to it, where they may not even be aware of what's sinking into their minds. They're not going to be they're not going to be closing themselves off to that, and that will get through at least at some point, especially if you listen to it on repeat. Okay? That's why I think that what Ren does is good. And that's why I think it was also good for me, because there's a lot of things that I heard through some of the things that he sang about, which I thought really connected with me before. That is facing the music. It's truth. But when you accept that truth about yourself, that is only when you get the power to change. To try and excuse yourself, or to refuse to listen to people, or refuse to be considerate of other people, or even maybe even if you're stupid, you don't even understand that what you're doing is not good for yourself. That music, hearing the truth of that music can give you the extra whatever you need to make a difference. And if the mental institutions already play music for people to make them feel better because they're trying to calm the patients in some way because they're at risk to themselves, what he's done is very good. It is very good. Especially like, what was that song? The Day I Got Out, the song Bad, he had posted Bad Company is Out. And Bad Company is talking about being a threat to yourself. Well, you know what? When you're thinking about the conscience, how do you think, like, if you had a bunch of people that were in a mental hospital and they're not being good towards themselves, and they're singing, I'm a threat to myself, I'm a threat to myself, if they feel something when they're singing that song, that tells you their conscience is working. They're not going to sing along with something that makes them feel bad. And that gives you some kind of idea about what their sanity is and what their heart is and all of that thing. That's why I'm like, I can't, say that something is good or something's bad without being in the perspective of where would this music be at in a good place. It'd be in a good place when it's the truth. When it's the truth. Now, the other thing that I had seen that he said was the part about taking out the lives of innocent people. Okay, so we talked about ignorance and we talked about naivety. And there's many people who say ignorance is bliss. That's ignoring things. Naivety is just not understanding the consequences or the effects of your own behavior. You're in denial or la la land or whatever it is. Either of those things. If you're wiping out innocent lives, if you're framing it that way through like saying that you're going to war, the way that my mind interprets that is not of the devil or something bad, like in Revelations, like that says. That's like, all right, then that is like a good thing to do for people. You're waking up people's conscience, the part that makes you become more good and more good and more real and more feeling as you understand things, and that goes right along with growing pains, so I don't think I need to talk about insurance again, about what I've said about insurance, because I already had that discussion. But what I said in the courtroom was, you don't want to do anything where you're betting against yourself, saying that I think something bad is going to happen and I want to know who's going to pay for it. Okay? No, that's not the right mentality, and that's just the only thing that I feel like if you want the benefits of something, you put in the work and you learn how to do it. And the people, and you will get benefits of things that you didn't always come up with, but that's because other people have put in the work. It's a work builds together. Okay, if you had only one person who was working to support, like, I don't know, let's just say one person did all the work for 20 people, and those other 20 people were like refusing to study, refusing to think, or whatever, that one person could not carry that load. And there would have to be some changes made because it's too much. And that's how the world is. You get benefits from other people because other people have recognized that this thing about you needing to do the work, inner work, physical work, whatever it is, to take care of the things that need to be taken care of in the world. And you get after that and you share in the benefits when you share in doing the good. You share in you don't want to be a part of sharing in the consequences and the terrible things that happen from making bad choices. But that can be transformative to get you into a better place. For instance, with this girl that talked about her French horn, I was like, maybe that she needed to have a bigger purpose for herself. And this mental institution music is something that she could get into, that she cares about, to bring her out of this self-destructive stuff. And that's really, like, these are like things to consider. I do have both of the responses towards Ren, that like I wouldn't have the romantic feelings for him that I have if I didn't notice that his putting himself into wanting to do better things for the world, and also allowing himself to be heartfelt with me in a way that's that's good for both of us, I think. Um, so there was this other thing that I saw Ren pop up when he was a younger man with his shirt off, and he was singing. Um, there ain't no that he was talking about the heartbreak can ruin you, and ruin you and ruin you and ruin you, and then he's saying there ain't no sunshine when she is gone. Um, and he, and for a moment, okay, that one touched me. I imagined our emotional type of connection, and also had the thought that, like, when he's showing his chest and experiencing those kind of letting his emotions be seen as he sings, that he's drawn some kind of a connection between um, showing his chest and expressing himself. And to look at it from that perspective, and to be like, he's not trying to segregate or block parts of his body as being bad, um, because of sexual things. He's thinking in a different way than I'm thinking. But I've been through different experiences where I think that if you reveal too much of yourself sexually, it can cause blockages for people not to be able to respect you intellectually or emotionally. And so that's why I am the way that I am. And that's our that's where I see what I experienced yesterday. But this is my bravery for today, was to talk about that experience. Also, to not shrink myself by feeling overly nervous that Ren won't respond to me on Twitter. I mean, it's like that's kind of small in comparison to all the things that he's done, but it's still like, I'm like, oh, how good would that feel if he would acknowledge that my name, or that how much he cares about me. You know, that I don't have to play these games to believe this thing that's going on between us, and then have to feel like I'm kind of a tiptoeing around trying to get recognized. You know, there's a part of it that makes me feel really childish, and there's a part of it that makes me feel like we're saving the world together. It's something else, man. It's something else. But you know, being considerate of people, being considerate of yourself, I think that, like, sums it up, man. And then the self-government, like, if you're doing a good job with your government here, it seems like the government actually is going to take good care of you outside of yourself, because you're not screwing up yourself because of your government. And so they want you in society, they want you in the community, they're going to root for you. And so that case was dismissed. It's your self-governing powers that you need to work at. You need to work at. They can hear quite obviously and well, that what you're saying is logical. They can know that there's proof of the good things that you're doing. They know about you, and they're going to be supportive of that. But they're not going to be supportive of somebody that's into self-destruction and you know, what is it called? Chaos and mayhem. What I don't like. You know, you know, it's you. When you do a good job with your government's going to do a good job for you. And that makes the political system a good system. If you think that the political system is a bad system, then you need to get sort it out here with yourself and figure out what's going on with that, because it's gonna be good to you if you are doing a good job here. And that just takes educating yourself, learning, evolving, whatever you can do to teach yourself things. If you expect, and I'd like to say this again, if you expect all of this stuff from other people to be able to benefit yourself, how do you think that's fair if you don't learn how to do anything? It's not fair. You have to learn how to contribute. You have to learn how to work. You have to learn how to do things that you expect for yourself. That's not, and I know that, like, there's different levels of what you'll be able to do within your lifespan, but there's a lot of good that you can do if you're just willing to put in the work, put in the time, stand your ground, be considerate, whatever it is. And good things will happen. We're not doomed. We're not in any predicament that we can't rise above from. And this was definitely an experience where trust is prevailed, a good word. Trust came through on both sides of the equation, and it was a fair thing in a good exercise, I guess you would say. So that was quite the spill, but Ren, you encouraged me to do it today, so I did it. Your Dr. Myers one I listened to again, and that, like, kind of inspired me also, because you're like, it's in sort of a way I can see some optimism in that, but also I do not. Like, that's a really sad song when you really think about it, is to, like, somebody sitting there thinking about admiring a doctor they want to be like, while the doctor looks upon this person that they're supposed to be trying to help as if they're a lost cause. That's a very sad circumstance, and that's another circumstance where, like, if a child's in that situation, that's difficult, but, like, you got to become the healer of yourself to be able to get well, and to be the healer of yourself, you really have to know yourself and be able to figure out what works for yourself. It's not a good thing to try and go through somebody else to get the healing you need for yourself when it's in there, because you've had the experience. This circumstance, I had to make myself feel better. I had to get through it. I had to do what I had to do to rise above. I know what the cure was because I got through it. I got through the other side of it. And I think there's a big difference between calling yourself a doctor or calling yourself a healer. A healer has healed and doesn't have the same issues that they used to have. They're gone. But has the memories of everything that occurred. So, an apple a day. An apple a day. An apple a day, LA. An apple a day, LA. LA. Launch. Lay. What was the other one? Apples and lemons. Apples and lemons. Apples and lemons. You said some other word that had lay in it. What was it? Lay. Lady. Sweet little lady. There was something else. Yeah, I know we can keep that last comment to ourselves and experience it instead of talking about it. I love you. I love you.